back to the show, everyone. I'm Roxann and this is Brick by Brick. We have an amazing guest on the show today who also hosts her own podcast. So I will put some of that information in the notes today if you want to check it out. So today we're going to be talking about a few things, but mostly I'm excited to talk about time management. So time management is something that's come up in a few conversations I've had with different people over the last little while. And, I think now it's especially important as kids are going back to school and everything's busy. But also as women, I think we just continuously take on every project that gets thrown at us. And then we feel guilty when we can't finish them all. So if you're like me and you have your gigantic, never-ending to-do list that only seems to get bigger, this one's for you. So let's give a big warm welcome to Kari Lotzien for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks so much for being here. So Kari is a business and leadership coach, and she also owns Be the Anchor, where she helps small businesses scale and grow without working themselves to death, which I think we can all relate to. So I thought we would just dive right into it and get started.
That sounds great.
So time management.
Well, I think first off, just the concept of time management, I think naturally we start to think about how can I get more done in less time?
Right.
How can I be more efficient? How can I be more productive? And there's this sense that we're not efficient enough and we need to just, we need to focus, we need to try harder, we need to get rid of distractions. And the difference in the way that I think about time management is thinking more in terms of our rhythms.
Okay.
And I think this is something that we don't naturally talk a lot about, especially in Western society, but every person has a natural rhythm. So maybe back years ago, you thought, I'm a morning person.
Okay. Yep.
Or I'm a night owl. Or maybe you've noticed that's changed over time. So I used to be a night owl. I used to stay up late. That was my best time to get my invoicing and my projects done. And now I've shifted as I've gotten a little bit older and I'm much more of a morning person.
Okay.
What I work with my clients is how do we recognize our own personal rhythms?
Okay.
How do we see what we naturally do? There's times during the day, times during the week, where we do our best, what I call flow state work. So that's where we need to have that mental focus. So whether it's big projects, whether it's we're working on a really big file, or we're trying to come up with a new idea or a project, this is when we need to be in this kind of low physical energy state.
Okay.
But our mind is ultra focused. There's other times where we're needing to be ticking those boxes, right? So we need to have a high level of physical energy to kind of stay focused, but we're just going through those things and getting them off of our list.
Right.
Right. When I think of those things, I often think, okay, well, those are the things that can sometimes, I call them procrastinatasks. Those tasks where you're like, I feel like I'm getting things done. I'm checking things off the list. I'm returning the email. I'm cleaning my office. I'm
the things where you're adding to your list as you do them just so it feels like you did something.
Exactly. Or you make the little box just so that you can check it off.
Guilty.
But those are the things that the reason we love doing them is because neurologically they give us this little dopamine hit. Because we feel like the thing that we get the dopamine hit from is completing tasks. So when we focus on those easy, quick tasks that we can turn over quickly, it gives us that little dopamine hit. Then what's happening is those things that are the big projects, the mental focus, the things that require our energy aren't getting the attention that they deserve.
Okay.
And sometimes what happens is we'll avoid those things long enough until eventually there's a deadline. There's something lurking where you think, I have to get that done. And we rely on that little hit of adrenaline, cortisol, stress hormone to push us over the hump to say, now you got to get it done. And let's be honest, high performers, many of us have lived that way our whole lives.
Right.
We've relied and been generally pretty successful, right? I got through university like that.
We do our best work under pressure.
The truth is we're rewarded for that last minute high performance. We do pretty good stuff. But over time, when we are constantly putting our bodies into this state of stress to get things done, what happens is we start to mentally lose focus. And for you referred to women, and I think a lot of women that I work with will talk about multitasking. We've got, the kids, we're trying to, tie skates and get them on the ice. We're answering a phone call and quickly returning an email, while also grabbing a coffee and ordering lunch. And the reality is every time we're doing these multitasking types of things, it's taxing our brains. And the latest research that I just read this week said when we have patterns of multitasking, it actually is the equivalent of losing a full night of sleep. Full night.
Wow.
In our IQ.
Oh my goodness.
We are actually losing intellectual points when we are multitasking. Now, how many of us, that was like our cape, like we were with such pride. We're thinking, well, we can do all these things and I'm a multitasker. The truth is you are just transitioning over and over and over again between that physical type task that's checking the boxes, a mental type task, and then you're trying to grab a quick little bit of rest and then a quick little bit of social connection, pop a quick text message, give a phone call. But what you're doing is every time we transition between those different types of energy, we're taxing our systems.
That makes sense.
So when I think about time management, what I think of is how can we use those categories of energy, align our tasks with that energy, and then think about, okay, well, what is my natural rhythm? When is the best time for me to just be checking boxes?
Okay.
When is the best time for me to be socially connecting with others, right? I know in our jobs, we spend so much time networking, doing sales, meeting with clients. Well, there's a time of the day in the week where you do that really well. And we know there's times where we don't do that really well, right? Where you'll leave and you'll think, oh my gosh, I was just off. Like, why did I say that? Or we kind of beat ourselves up. But instead of going like, why didn't I perform at my highest level? And how can I just stress myself into that? Can we think about, what? My client meetings, and I know for myself, my client appointments that are best are Tuesdays and Thursdays between 9 and 3:30. I've dialed it right in.
Wow.
Monday morning appointments, my brain is still scattery. Or what I noticed, if I had Monday appointments, I'd get those Sunday scaries.
Oh, sure.
The Sunday anxiety where you start working on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking about what's going on a Monday morning. So you're already in that planning state. Whereas now I push back my client appointments so that my Monday mornings are spent planning my week.
Smart.
Planning my time, thinking about what that looks like. So a little bit of a different way to think about time management from just traditional time blocking, get up earlier.
Yeah. Okay. And so correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that the time management principles that, that you're talking about that apply to people in business and at work, are some of the same principles that will probably apply to people running households as well.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Because let's be honest, how often are we only doing one thing?
Never.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, that was kind of one of my triggers. I think a lot of the gurus out there on productivity and time management, they're single young dudes that don't have families and they have these giant teams that help manage their time. That's not the majority of us.
Yeah. They're just like, oh, just spend 5 hours doing this. Well,
exactly.
What woman has 5 uninterrupted hours to spend on one thing? No one.
But what we know is if you can align that flow state time and regulate your nervous system, what we can do in an hour is phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's how often can we actually carve out that hour to minimize distraction, to actually take things off of our plate, to truly get that precious 1 hour of focused time. It's amazing what we can do.
Okay. So I have a question now. Tell me the difference between the physical stuff, like the checking the boxes, and the flow state, the brain tasks. Are those different tasks, or are they just different how you apply them differently?
They're different tasks.
Okay.
Traditionally. So what happens if you think about the physical type tasks are things that you don't need to really pay attention to.
Okay.
You don't need to think about. A lot of those things can almost come on automatic, right? So you drive to work.
Right.
You return emails. You pay bills.
Yeah.
Right? So those are the things that you've likely done them so many times, you know how to do them easily.
Okay.
You're fast.
Yeah.
Versus the mental focus time, the flow state time. That's when you're working on a new idea, trying to be creative, thinking about a new podcast topic, or thinking about a marketing tactic that you want to try, or, how can I What do I want to do in terms of strategy or vision?
Yeah. Okay.
That's where you really need to optimize flow state time.
So you're planning your ideas, your all of those things in that time. So how would a person go about finding when the times are best for them?
I would say nobody likes the word audit.
Yeah.
But the truth is, the reason I actually love audits is because audits don't say what we want. They don't say, oh, here's the person I desire to be. It says, here's who you are.
Right.
Here's how you actually spent that money.
Yeah, which is why no one likes it.
It's where it actually went. Like, it's a truth teller.
Yeah.
So I look backwards and I say, tell me about the times where you have done your best work. Where were you?
Yeah.
Who was around? Were you alone? Were you in a coffee shop? Were you in an office? Were there other people that you were collaborating with and that helped you get going? So what happens is we look at what you've done in the past. And we say, what works? And then we help dial your attention to that.
Okay.
To say, okay, well, now you've got this big project coming up, or you want to do some strategic planning, or you want to think about you want to look at your household finances and your budget, and you're really needing to focus in. Okay, well, then let's replicate the way that your brain works best to help you focus.
And so Kari also offers this as a course. So you can sign up and she can teach you how to do these things more efficiently. So I'm assuming those are the things that you will teach in your course to someone to help them dial in to be their most productive without the to-do lists and the, forcing yourself to do things you don't even want to do when you don't feel like doing them.
Well, and the truth is, I'm so tired of us just beating ourselves up. Yeah. And feeling like we just need to do more and be better and be more focused. Like we've done that for so long. And the reality is it's not working. Yeah. And what's really amazing, I think, with a lot of my clients and people who take my courses is they're almost kind of shocked. One of my favorite activities, and I'll share this with your audience because it's so simple, but it's so powerful. I'll have my clients, and we do this during private coaching sessions. We do this sometimes in the workshop where I'll just say, let's take 5 minutes and just dump out whatever's on your mind. Oh. All of those random things that are just going through your head. And it's amazing how much is actually swirling around in there. And it's like, dumping out your Halloween candy on the floor and just looking at what you've actually got and then going, okay, actually this shouldn't even be in there because I don't like that. And these are the things that are really important that I want to keep. We do that with your thoughts. Say what thoughts are just taking up space, but they're not really something I need to pay attention to.
I love it.
And then I talk about dominoes. So are there things in there that if I worked on this one thing, it would create a domino effect in so many other areas of my life? So that now becomes my priority. Okay. So we manage our tasks. Right. And then we start to kind of work through. So just taking 5 minutes and a random piece of paper and dumping out your thoughts so you can see what's in there. And then being able to kind of sort through it and say, okay, here's what I'm going to give my attention to for the next half hour because that's all I've got. But I can make progress. And typically when we work through that, people say, this actually kind of feels easy. I don't feel like I'm doing more. I don't feel like I'm hustling harder. I don't feel like I'm just trying to be more efficient. I actually feel like I can breathe.
How amazing.
My body feels more relaxed. I feel like I'm sleeping better.
Oh, wow.
I'm actually taking time to eat. And it sounds crazy that we actually have to plan for that, but these are the outcomes that really make a difference. And then it creates that snowball effect. When we're sleeping better, our minds work better.
Of course. Oh, you're right.
Better hydrated. Yeah. Our minds, just become clearer and we have better ideas and we work more in that flow type state. Yeah. So yeah, these are the things I teach. But we also do some really tangible, practical things and work through them together. Yeah. I do this a lot with my private coaching clients. Okay. Not everyone enjoys or wants to kind of open up in a group setting. Sure. So it's nice to have those options. People can kind of pick and choose what works for them.
Sounds amazing.
Well, I have to say, I don't want to, it's hard to kind of market yourself sometimes. Sure. But honestly, I think the big thing is I just get so passionate about the change that I see in my clients. Right. Because you physically see the change. Wow. And you get to hear how the relationships change.
Oh, I can't imagine. Yeah. We all have such a horrible relationship with time, right? It's like, okay, I have to do I have to do all these things today. And then you didn't get something done or something new pops up, you get a flat tire, and now your whole day is screwed. And now you're so emotionally upset because your whole day is, and so then you're going home and you're taking that home with you too. Your kids, your husband, your whole relationship with those people changes once you've missed stuff from your to-do list.
Yeah.
Right? The iconic to-do list that we all end up with.
And our families and the people we love the most gets what's left of us.
Right.
At the end of the day or at the end of the week. And if we are constantly maxing ourselves out, and then you come home and you're barely able to carry on a conversation at dinner. And I'm going to be perfectly honest, like, I don't have this all figured out. Like, not even close. So I always say, like, be cautious. If you meet my children or my husband, like, they'll say, she taught you what? She didn't talk at all the other night. She just sat there and grouched at us. But this is part of it. It's part of the messy,
of course,
pieces of life that we try to put all together. But I recognized it myself. Like, I don't want to be showing up with just the fumes that are left for my energy, for my friends and my family and the people that really matter to me.
Right.
And that's where I'm passionate. I want to see that change, and I want new ideas and people to get excited about how they're working.
Oh.
And when we're exhausted, we can't be excited.
No, for sure. I love that with the rhythms. I think that's so smart. I started using a timer. I've had it in my office for a year now, and I've never used it because you just get caught up and but I used it the other day. And so I set it for 45 minutes and I said, okay, I'm just going to work on this for 45 minutes. I said it. And then when it was done, I stopped, and I took a little break, and then I worked on something else, but it did feel freeing. It was just like, okay, Roxann, you can't do anything else but this. You're not going to answer your phone. You're not going to look at your emails. And I really did. I got a ton of stuff done in 45 minutes. Yeah. And I've never used it like that before. I'm always, well, I'm going to do this, but my phone rang, or I got this message and I got interrupted. And it's back to that multitasking. You're like, oh, I can do this. But the amount of time it takes your brain to focus back in on what you're doing, you just lost 10 minutes of the time you're paying attention to it.
Yeah. It's a perfect example of the hack that I talk about, because so many times when something's important and not urgent, if you're familiar with the Eisenhower matrix, what happens is we push it off because we think, oh, I can do that later. It doesn't have a deadline. But by setting that timer that's been on your desk, you experienced firsthand what that feels like when you have a limited amount of time. What happens is you're tricking your brain into thinking there's a deadline.
Oh.
Because you know that timer's going to go off. So if your phone rings, you're willing to leave it. If an email notification comes in, you're willing to ignore it. Because you have this sense of, this is due.
Right.
I got to get this done or else. It's this little trick that we can use so that the timer is...
I didn't put that together. I really did get more done than I would have expected myself to get done. And you're right. My phone did ring and I was like, nope, I only got 29 minutes left. I got to get all this stuff done. It was amazing.
You know, the fun thing I was talking about with a group of clients the other day was that same idea tied to the time audit.
Okay.
Tied to how awful we are at delegation.
Okay.
And what we did was I said, okay, we're going to set the timer for half hour. You're going to give yourself a task to do. Because how many times do we hear ourselves say things like, it's faster to just do it myself?
All the time.
Oh, that's only going to take me 15 minutes to do. There is nothing more telling than when you set that timer and then you're working and you are ultimately focused, you're competent, you've done this stuff 100 times, you know exactly what you're doing. The timer goes off and you're not done. And then you inadvertently, you hire someone, you give them a task and you go, I can't believe that took them 2 hours. That only takes me a half an hour.
Sure.
Truth teller. No, it didn't. It actually took you an hour in ultimate focus when you were using all of your ideal tools.
Right.
So it really helps, I think, protect us from being really bad delegators.
Oh, see, isn't that genius? I love that. Because you're right. We're all like, you could do this in 5 minutes. Why did it take you 45? And then we think they're wasting time. We're like, and we're paying you to do this. And that's what makes us mad as business owners. That's so funny. I do love that.
I have to say, I didn't love it.
Yeah.
When I first realized, because I was like, oh, I thought it was so much faster.
Right. So much more productive.
I thought it was so much more productive. No wonder it's 8 o'clock and I'm still sitting at my desk trying to figure this out. It's because things take me truly longer than I think they should. Yeah. We're lying to ourselves. That's the beginning of it. And the audit always tells the truth.
I love the audit idea. So tell us about your time management course that you offer. I know you just got finished one. And so are you offering another one?
So the time management course is wrapping up.
Okay.
But what's really awesome, so my program that I run is called the Anchored Leadership Academy.
Okay.
And the concept of being anchored, so we've talked a lot about nervous systems and how your brain operates and how to optimize your energy. That is what anchored leadership is all about.
Okay.
So it's kind of a fun story. If you don't mind,
please,
I'll tell it.
100%. Absolutely.
So my husband's grandfather used to call me the anchor, and I actually thought it was an insult.
Right.
I thought he was calling me, the ball and chain, and I'm the one that holds everything down. And it was my husband and I were running two different companies. We were both full out. We were early in our startups, so we were working crazy hours. Our kids were young. I think they were 3 and 5 at the time, and we were sitting at the kitchen table having a cup of coffee with Grandpa, Papa Jack, and I was complaining, whining. And he said, well, Kari, you've always known. And I was like, I don't be the anchor. And he goes, no, like, why'd you say it like that? And I paused, and he says, when the seas of life get stormy, and they always will, he said, it's not your job to try to calm the waters of the ocean. It is not your job to try to captain everybody's ship. It's your job to set your own destination and just be the anchor, be that point of stability for others.
How amazing.
I've told that story hundreds of times. I still get goosebumps because I can hear his voice.
Yeah.
He's passed now, but that principle suddenly guided how I wanted to show up for my kids.
Right.
How I wanted to be in my business. Right. And I mean, we just went through a pretty significant time in the world.
Right.
And I think we're still recovering from that idea that the seas of life got really stormy, and if you were running a business, it was crazy.
Scary.
And to be able to find that place where you anchor your nervous system and you go, you know what, no matter what comes up, I know we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And there's a very specific way. It's funny how I naturally do it. You'll notice like my tone dropped. I started talking slower.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. When you want to instill calm in other people, we drop our tone.
Okay.
We slow our voice.
Soothing.
It's like, we're okay.
Yeah.
We got this. Right? Papa Jack was phenomenal at that. So in the Anchored Leadership Academy, that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Is I'm teaching people through how to work with their time. So this first one was mastering time. Our next one is becoming an anchored leader. So how do we develop the skills of delegating well?
Yeah.
Having hard conversations, whether that's with clients or team members or colleagues.
Family.
Sure. And there's a guide. So I don't come in, it's not a one size fits all. It's not a cookie cutter approach to say, say these words and do these things. It's take your situation, take this framework, see how it feels for you, learn the principles, and then we join together once a week and we talk about it.
Very cool. Different
industries, different situations, but we just apply those concepts so that they land. How many times, right? You read a book, take a course, and you think, that's such a good idea. And then we go back to doing things the way we did before. Yeah. So this way, I feel like I've been able to find that balance between kind of connecting, creating community, and teaching those big concepts. So we'll have kind of a series throughout the year. Well, we'll go from becoming an anchored leader, then early in the new year, of course, we'll do the strategic planning. Then we'll talk about hiring and recruiting, team development and culture, exceptional customer experiences. That's kind of the way the season will flow. And if you notice, it kind of aligns with what when I talk about rhythms, in a lot of business, that's kind of the rhythm of business as well, right? We do our strategic planning in our Q1. Yeah. And then typically our Q1 identifies, or our strategic plan identifies, hey, we should be hiring. And then we develop a process for that. And then we want to keep those people. So we develop, processes and support and culture for that.
Very cool. And so when does it start?
The Becoming an Anchored Leader starts October 24th.
Okay.
So that's coming up pretty quick.
Very cool, in a couple weeks. Yeah. And so what type of businesses? Any type of business, any person, any business owner, any employee?
So typically for the anchored leadership, so being an identified leader in your company.
Okay.
Right. So I like to say it's people who have influence.
Okay.
That could be a senior manager. It could be a solopreneur, you're working with a bookkeeper, virtual assistant, social media manager, things like that. It could be owner of a small business. So most of my clients, I would say, are small business owners.
Yep.
And most of them are between kind of years 3 to 8 in business. So what we're finding is that there's a lot of support out there for startups that are government funded, that, there's nice support, but it really drops off after you're established. Right. And I heard there's actually a stat in Canada that we know that most businesses fail. We know that it's over 50%, but I think there's a myth out there that we think, well, it's because they didn't get a good start. The truth is, the most vulnerable time in a business is between years 3 and 8.
Wow. Right. Well, because
that's surprising.
They're coasting. The first couple of years, they've got their own funds that are supporting it, whether they're making money or not. And then all of a sudden, that personal money's sort of ran out, and now you're...
And the truth is, this is usually the time in business where we now need to either start recruiting, outsourcing, hiring. And many of us that started businesses, we know our service. We know the service well. We can provide exceptional customer service. We know our product. Yeah. We know how to deliver. But that keeps you as the only employee in your business. And the skill that you need between years 3 and 8 is leadership.
Okay.
And most small businesses, business owners, managers have no training in how to be a great leader, how to delegate well. So we tend to, one of huge company in Canada. I won't point out the company, but I got the opportunity to sit with one of the CFOs that works internationally, and he said, the problem with Canadian business is we promote to incompetence. And he said, you'll take your top performer in sales and you make them a manager, your top performer in whatever they're doing, and you make them a leader, but you give them no additional training on how to be a leader.
Right.
And then they feel incompetent, and that's where we stop their traction in the company. So what I want to do is really support small business owners right from the initial, I'm just starting to outsource. Let's do it well. Yeah. So that you can get that traction in your company, so that you survive far beyond 8 years, but now you start to get your time back, and you're able to do that well because you're truly empowering others. You're building that next generation. You're, creating jobs in your community. You're giving back. I think that's where it gets really exciting.
Amazing. It sounds amazing. And huge opportunity. Yeah. We can tell.
I love business. I love it so much. Yeah. And I sit there, I read business books for fun. And my husband's like, you're just a little bit crazy. But then I start talking to him about it. Next thing I know, he's excited too.
It's infectious. Yeah,
I think so.
For sure. And I can tell you have a big energy about it. And it's exciting for small businesses to be able to take advantage of that and learn things that they don't know anything about. Yeah. Right? Because like you said, you have that top producer who's great at keeping the money coming in, but you can't always be the only producer in your company if you're going to grow. And like you said, get your time back.
Absolutely. And I think that too often the other kind of, in Anchored Leadership Academy, I maintain a rock solid confidentiality policy.
Okay.
Confidentiality policy.
Yeah.
That if you're caught sharing anything from that group outside of the group, you're out.
Right.
There's not a second chance.
Oh, good for you.
Because I am so strong that how many times as a small business owner, we're always putting on a brave face. Yeah. Oh, things are good. Yeah. Times, business is great. We don't have a safe place to say, actually, my kid was puking their guts out all night. I feel like I'm, running on fumes. I'm on my 8th cup of coffee today, and you're on my last nerve. Right. Nobody gets to just lay that out.
Right.
This is the place you can do that. So I protect it just so tightly because I think it's so important.
So important. It sounds lovely.
Come on in.
Yeah. And
to have you.
You can tell it, Kari's so passionate about it. So this was so lovely. Thanks so much. So we're going to put all of Kari's info in the notes for this podcast. So you can check out her podcast, sign up for Anchored Leadership Academy because it sounds incredible, or pass this on to someone that you know. This is super helpful for all sorts of different situations, I think, too. Maybe not just business, but even running a household, or you have different things that, charities and things like that, where you have people in charge that need to take care of other people. I think all of this is super important. So, and
we would definitely take nonprofits in there as well, because the principles are the same, right?
100%. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. I
you.
truly enjoyed this. And if you guys want to reach out to Kari for anything about her courses or anything like that, feel free to. I will put all her contact info there.
Thank you so much.
See you, everyone. Stay tuned.